Welcome to IALF, the Indonesia-Australia Language Foundation. IALF has been at the forefront of excellence in language training and testing for over 35 years, empowering people across Indonesia and beyond. The Indonesia-Australia Language Foundation for everyone. From general English courses for all ages, language training and testing for over 35 years for those preparing to study overseas across Indonesia and beyond. The Indonesia-Australia Language Foundation from general English language training for Australia to specialized programs since the 1985 years, as well as preparing to study overseas across Indonesia, New Zealand, Indonesia, and other countries. From general English language training for Australia to specialized programs since the 1985 years, as well as preparing
Sorry, everyone. We're going to do the video again. Are we? Okay, we're not. Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the PTE 101 webinar with IALF. And my name is Echa. Today I'm going to be the MC. But before we're going to the webinar, kita akan kenalan terlebih dahulu. Siapa sih IALF? IALF tuh ada apa ya di Indonesia ini gitu. So, kita akan dengerin presentasi dari salah satu kerabat saya dengan Kak Happy untuk presentasi dari IALF-nya. Kak Happy, the time is yours.
So yeah, hello, good afternoon everyone. Selamat datang di PTE One-on-One webinar. Hari ini kita akan belajar tentang apa itu PTE dan juga bagaimana cara mengerjakan tesnya, begitu ya. Nah, sebelum itu perkenalkan saya Happy, saya adalah marketing manager di IALF dan kami apa itu IALF? Mungkin ada teman-teman yang belum mengetahui. Jadi saya di sini akan memperkenalkan sedikit tentang layanan-layanan di IALF. So, IALF is Indonesia's language institution for English language training and then teacher training, international testing, and also overseas education services. Jadi lokasi kami ada 3 di seluruh Indonesia. Ada di IALF Jakarta di Sudirman Park, kemudian IALF Gading Serpong di Paramount Rodeo Gading Serpong Tangerang, dan IALF Bali di Denpasar. Dan ini adalah layanan-layanan kami. Kami ada English Language Training yang macam-macam. Ada mulai dari General English, kemudian Pre-Departure Training, Business English, dan lain sebagainya. Dan yang kedua, kami memiliki test preparation. Jadi ini adalah kelas bahasa Inggris yang mempersiapkan teman-teman untuk mempersiapkan tes IELTS atau PTE-nya. Dan berikutnya di IALF kami adalah penyelenggara tes IELTS dan PTE yang official, yang resmi. Jadi jangan khawatir kalau teman-teman mau ambil tes PTE di IALF itu bersertifikat atau berlaku secara internasional. Dan yang terakhir kami ada Overseas Education Services dengan divisi kami bernama IALF Global. Nanti akan dijelaskan lebih lanjut oleh rekan saya. Oke, teman-teman sudah familiar tentang IELTS test ya, saya kira. Dan untuk IELTS test sendiri di IALF kami menyelenggarakan di 3 cabang kami, di IALF Jakarta, kemudian di Gading Serpong, dan di Bali. Dan juga kami menyelenggarakan IELTS test di banyak lokasi di Indonesia. Kami bekerjasama dengan universitas-universitas seperti di Malang, ada di Universitas Negeri Malang, kemudian di Poli Batam, kemudian juga ada di UIN Alauddin Makassar, dan lain sebagainya. Untuk IELTS test sendiri, teman-teman dapat membayar dengan menggunakan kartu kredit Mandiri, BNI atau BCA, dan bisa memilih dengan cicilan 0% selama 3 dan 6 bulan. Dan jika teman-teman ingin mengambil IELTS test tetapi pengen tahu dulu kemampuannya seperti apa, apakah sudah sesuai dengan skor target atau belum, kemampuan saat ini teman-teman bisa mengambil yang namanya IELTS Insights Test. Jadi ini adalah simulasi tes IELTS yang berbasis komputer yang teman-teman dapat lakukan secara online di rumah atau bisa datang ke IALF di Gading Serpong atau di IALF Bali. Untuk biayanya sendiri, untuk IELTS Insights Test ini Rp600.000 dan itu include 4 skills, mulai mulai dari listening, reading, writing, dan speaking. Namun kalau teman-teman sudah sering nih mungkin latihan listening sama readingnya dan hanya ingin speakingnya saja dengan examiner kami. Nah, ada hanya satu bagian saja namanya IELTS Speaking Insight Test. Dan di sini teman-teman nanti akan mendapatkan feedback dengan teacher kami dan akan langsung face to face ya untuk simulasinya. Jika ingin persiapan lebih lengkap, kami ada namanya IELTS Preparation Modular itu yang dilakukan dimulai setiap minggu. Jadi jangan khawatir harus menunggu kapan kelas dibuka begitu. Jadi kelasnya itu ada di hari Selasa sampai Jumat dan juga di hari Sabtu. Untuk masuk ke kelas ini, teman-teman perlu melakukan placement test terlebih dahulu. Silakan bisa scan QR code yang ada di layar atau masuk ke website kami di ialf.edu. Nanti teman-teman bisa melakukan placement test secara gratis dan untuk bisa join kelasnya harus ada di level pre-intermediate 3 atau setara dengan IELTS 5,0 atau kalau pakai TOEFL ITP itu sekitar 500 skornya. Tapi kalau misalkan hasil dari placement testnya itu kurang dari pre-intermediate 3, teman-teman jangan khawatir, kami ada kelas namanya IELTS Foundation, di mana kelas ini akan melatih kemampuan bahasa Inggris teman-teman selain juga persiapan untuk IELTS testnya. Nah, bagi teman-teman yang mau ambil PTE test, dan saya rasa banyak teman-teman di sini yang akan mengambil Pearson Test of English ya. Jadi kami di IALF menyelenggarakan tes PTE yang akademik, ada akademik UKVI dan juga yang lainnya, ada di IALF Gading Serpong dan Bali. Jadi kalau untuk di IALF Gading Serpong nanti setiap hari Rabu sampai Sabtu. Dan teman-teman bisa booking 24 jam sebelum waktu tesnya. Untuk hasilnya sendiri untuk PTE itu kurang lebih 2 hari maksimum setelah tanggal tes. Untuk PTE Academic juga digunakan untuk aplikasi Working Holiday Visa. Jadi silakan teman-teman juga bisa pilih nanti jenis tesnya PTE yang akademik. Lalu untuk persiapannya, kami memiliki kelas namanya PTE Express. Ini dilakukan selama 2 minggu dan kelasnya selama Selasa sampai Jumat dan kelasnya dilakukan secara online. Jadi teman-teman nanti bisa placement test terlebih dahulu dan juga register. Silahkan scan QR code di layar. Untuk kelas yang baru nanti akan dimulai tanggal 31 Maret 2026. Jadi sebelum itu silakan teman-teman bisa melakukan placement test terlebih dahulu dan kalau mau konsultasi lebih lanjut nanti silakan bisa hubungi WhatsApp kami yang akan saya infokan di akhir slides. Nah, untuk pembayaran PTE tes sendiri itu menggunakan kartu kredit dan untuk PTE Academic biayanya 222 USD. Tetapi kalau teman-teman tidak ada kartu kredit, jangan khawatir, silakan bisa hubungi IALF untuk bisa membeli voucher PTE Academic. Jadi vouchernya nanti bisa dibeli menggunakan rupiah, bisa melakukan transfer atau bisa datang ke IALF. Oke, ini saya akan memutarkan satu video dari salah satu ex-student kami yang telah melakukan PTE test dan juga sebelumnya melakukan persiapan di IALF dengan mengambil PTE Premium.
Halo, saya Oki. Saya salah satu student dari IALF untuk PTE Preparation Premium. Teacher saya Miss Mita. Saya ambil PTE Preparation Premium ini kurang lebih untuk 2 minggu selama 10 jam. Jadi dari akhir Januari kemarin 2026 sampai Februari awal. Terus setelah mengikuti preparationnya, saya langsung mengikuti tesnya. Dan overall resultnya memuaskan untuk saya karena sebenarnya sebelum melakukan PTE preparation, saya sudah melakukan score practice test dan itu hasilnya masih di bawah dari target. Tapi setelah mengikuti PTE preparation, kemudian saya mengikuti tes, hasilnya jauh di atas dari perkiraan saya. Nah, yang saya dapetin dari PTE Preparation Premium ini bersama Miss Mita, itu yang pertama saya benar-benar mendapatkan strateginya untuk menghadapi tesnya. Itu yang paling penting, karena kan selama ini mungkin kita udah tahu tentang tesnya, tapi kita belum tahu bagaimana mengatasi soal-soal tesnya. Jadi preparation premiumnya ini berfungsi banget, berguna banget untuk saya bisa mengetahui apa aja yang harus saya fokuskan, apa aja band-band yang harus saya improve lagi supaya saya bisa memenuhi skor yang saya mau. Jadi so far selama saya belajar dengan Miss Mita itu benar-benar helpful sekali karena benar-benar dikasih tahu cara menghadapi soal-soalnya. Nah, dari saya pribadi, saya merekomendasikan untuk kalian yang sedang mempersiapkan untuk PTE test untuk mengambil course di IALF. Thank you IALF.
Oke, jadi teman-teman kalau mengambil kelas PTE Express ataupun PTE Premium di IALF, persiapan PTE, nanti teman-teman akan mendapatkan official score practice test dari PTE langsung yang bisa dikerjakan sebelum kelas dimulai.
Halo.
Dan berikutnya, kami juga ada layanan essay consulting services, di mana teman-teman bisa mensubmit essay bahasa Inggris teman-teman, baik itu untuk keperluan beasiswa atau keperluan uni, nanti bisa kami proofread dan kami beri feedback. Dan itu sebanyak 2 kali. Dan untuk pertanyaan lebih lanjut mengenai PTE preparation, PTE test, atau mungkin IELTS test, dan juga layanan kami yang lain, teman-teman bisa WhatsApp kami di nomor ini. Nanti rekan saya akan menjawab pertanyaan dari teman-teman. Oke, itu saja perkenalan IALF dari saya. Saya akan kembalikan ke Kak Eca. Silakan.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Kak Happy penjelasannya. So, itu sedikit insights ya buat teman-teman mengetahui siapa sih IALF, ada program apa saja di IALF, dan ada lagi salah satu program di IALF yaitu namanya IALF Global. IALF Global ini adalah study consultant. Jadi kalau ada teman-teman yang mau studi lanjut ke luar negeri menggunakan PTE tes juga, itu bisa dibantu oleh IALF Global. Dan rekan saya akan melakukan presentasi selanjutnya dengan Kak Tobing. Kak Tobing, the time is yours.
Thank you, Echa. Okay, hi everyone. Nice to meet you here during this weekend. I hope you have a nice weekend with us. Jadi aku sebelumnya perkenalan dulu, nama aku Tobing. So ya, aku konselor dari IALF Global di Gading Serpong karena kita ada 3 cabang, Gading Serpong, Jakarta, dan di Bali. Sebelumnya aku izin share screen dulu. Ini apa sudah terlihat kah? Oke, oke, thank you. Oke, aku sekalian perkenalan juga ya. Jadi betul tadi Kak Eca sempat mention bahwa IALF Global itu yang membantu teman-teman untuk apa ya, studi lanjut ya, ibaratnya overseas education services. Jadi kalau misalnya ada yang mau bertanya-tanya mengenai programnya, kemudian universitasnya, kemudian ada rencana untuk apply scholarship, misalnya LPDP, Chevening, or Manaki gitu. Dan itu kita bisa bantu. Cuman kalau yang scholarship tetap dari teman-teman sendiri yang apply. Untuk universitasnya kami yang bantu dari awal sampai pengurusan student visa. And if you're asking further about our service fee, everything is free. Kecuali kalau misalnya ada pembayaran untuk tuition fee, kemudian visa, medical check-up, itu kita kembalikan ke pihak yang bersangkutan, begitu. Nah, seperti yang sudah disampaikan Mas Epi, kita ada 3 cabang. Maybe I will skip this one. Jadi ada Jakarta, Gading Serpong, dan Bali. Untuk our servicesnya selain study abroad consultation yang mengenai study program, university and country destination selection, and documents preparation, kita juga membantu untuk urusan on campus atau off campus accommodation assistance sampai student visa application service. Kalau tadi di rekan saya Mas Happy menjelaskan mengenai essay consulting services, di sini ada motivation letter assistant and editing service ini lebih ke arah universitasnya. Kalau yang teman-teman yang fokus untuk scholarship, itu bisa nanti ambil yang essay consulting karena itu memang biasanya yang berencana untuk ambil scholarship. Kalau ini yang university biasanya meminta paling banyak dari negara Europe, termasuk UK dan Ireland yang meminta personal statement. Biasanya Australia dan New Zealand jarang minta kecuali kalau ada yang berencana untuk apply scholarship yang dari kampusnya, begitu. Dan juga ada pre-departure training. Pre-departure training ini biasanya kalau yang dari scholarship Manaki dan AS, mereka biasanya ada pre-departure-nya di IALF Bali. Tapi kalau misalnya di luar itu, apakah ada? Biasanya dari tim IALF Global yang akan memberikan pre-departure training. Apa aja yang harus disiapkan, apa saja yang harus dibawa dokumennya setelah visa granted. Nah, berikut country destination-nya. Jadi tidak hanya Australia dan New Zealand ya, karena mungkin teman-teman taunya IALF itu fokusnya lebih ke Australia. Dari namanya saja Indonesia Australia Language Foundation. Tapi tidak, kita juga bisa membantu di luar Australia. Contoh ya tadi seperti UK, Ireland, US, Kanada, mungkin beberapa yang mau ke Eropa seperti Sweden dan Netherlands. Ya, kita bisa bantu selama memang ada agreement-nya dengan universitasnya. Untuk Asia, Malaysia, Singapura, kita juga ada beberapa yang ke Korea atau China. Kalau Jepang nggak terlalu banyak, tapi mungkin ada beberapa. Nah, ini university yang bisa kita bantu. Ada grup, four of them, group of eight. Monash University, University of Western Australia, UNSW, Adelaide University. Kemudian kalau UK ada Russell Group yang di bawahnya ada Sheffield, Edinburgh, Glasgow, New Zealand ada Otago, AUT. Tapi kalau di luar ini, apakah bisa dibantu? Bisa saja selama nanti teman-teman bisa tanya saja langsung ke tim kami. Kita akan bantu cek apakah university tersebut memiliki direct agreement dengan kita. Baik yang direct agreement, master agent, ataupun partnership kita yang lain. Oke. Jadi untuk yang pertama, nah betul, kalau misalnya dibilang mau konsultasi boleh, tapi akan lebih baik kalau teman-teman sudah mempersiapkan requirement dari segi Inggrisnya, terutama PTE ya kalau di sini. Jadi kalau once teman-teman sudah tahu nih jurusan yang diambil apa, PTE-nya harus berapa. Biasanya PTE mostly dari university sekarang dulu 58 overall. Tapi sekarang untuk master ya, master dan yang postgraduate, tapi sekarang ada beberapa yang sudah naik menjadi 60 atau 62. Jadi sebisa mungkin band itu dinaikkan sedikit supaya untuk memilih universitasnya akan lebih mudah. Dan juga perlu diperhatikan ada beberapa universitas mungkin di websitenya tidak dijelaskan bandnya harus berapa. Pada saat di breakdown lagi di website tertentu untuk English requirement-nya, mereka ada bandnya masing-masing. Meskipun overall-nya itu sudah meet requirement. Nah, itu perlu diperhatikan. Jadi jangan sampai hanya satu band aja, terus itu juga akan jadi kendala waktu apply university-nya. Jadi make sure semuanya harus di atas 58 atau 60, better 62. Seperti itu. Nah, once sudah selesai semua, misalnya PTI sudah dapat, barulah teman-teman bisa melanjutkan konsultasi itu dengan kami sambil berjalan, sambil menyiapkan dokumen-dokumen yang dibutuhkan sesuai dengan kebutuhan universitas dan negara. Jadi berbeda. Kalau Australia New Zealand tidak ada personal statement dan recommendation letter, kalau di Eropa dan US Kanada mereka meminta. Jadi kalau ada opsi-opsi yang seperti itu berarti lebih baik disiapkan semua. Nah, ini aku lanjut dulu. Mungkin ada yang anak SMA di sini. Jadi kalau yang mau ambil S1, jelas rapotnya minta dari kelas 10 sampai 12 semester 1, minta sekolahnya juga ditranslate dalam 2 bahasa, karena sekarang semuanya diminta. Kemudian juga IELTS atau PTE, ini PTE kurang lebih sama yang tadi aku sebut 58 sampai 62. Jadi itu tergantung dari program dan juga requirement university-nya. Valid paspor ini yang diminta, paspor tolong make sure sebelum daftar tes, pastikan namanya harus sama seperti akte lahir, KTP, dan juga di sekolahnya pakai nama apa ijazahnya. Jangan sampai paspornya namanya bukan nama yang sesuai, kemudian daftar tes, baru diganti nama paspor, tidak akan ada pengulangan untuk tes lagi. Jadi make sure kalian harus sudah beres nama-namanya sesuai semua gitu. Untuk SAT dan ACT ini tergantung dari kurikulumnya. Kalau nasional memang harus pakai dan itu biasanya dipakai kalau teman-teman mau apply beasiswa Garuda. Nah, seperti itu. Kalau portfolio ini hanya untuk anak-anak yang ngambil arts and design, architecture, animation design, or so on. Untuk yang S2 beda ya, bukan rapot sekolah, tapi lebih ke arah S1-nya, ijazah dan akademik transkrip. Kalau sudah 2 bahasa dari kampusnya, tidak perlu di Swan Translator. Kalaupun belum ditranslate, lebih baik minta ke kampusnya karena itu free dari servisnya. Kemudian CV tetap pakai, ini kalau di-convert ke PTE itu 60 sampai, ya sebenarnya sudah ditanyakan ke beberapa uni, mereka sudah naik, nggak 58 lagi, tapi naik ke 60. Jadi make sure itu dinaikkan semua bandnya. Valid paspor sama seperti yang tadi disampaikan harus sama semua datanya. Personal statement, reference letters biasa minta 2. dari yang pihak kampus dan juga tempat kerjanya. Kalau misalnya sudah lulus lebih dari 10 tahun, gapnya tidak perlu meminta ke kampus. Jadi dua-duanya boleh dari tempat kerja. Dan juga portfolio sama untuk yang ngambil Master of Design atau Arsitektur itu tetap dilampirkan semuanya. Untuk mungkin ada yang PhD juga, PhD ini sama seperti Master by Coursework ya, cuma tambahannya ijazah dan transkrip S2, dua bahasa juga sama dan harus sudah dapat supervisor. Kalau ditanya apakah bisa dibantu dicarikan supervisor, at the end harus kalian juga yang approach ke supervisornya, bukan kami. Karena yang tahu topiknya adalah teman-teman. Tapi kalau mau diskusi misalnya ini, kalau topik dengan riset topik seperti ini, better ke negara yang mana, yang memang dia strongnya di situ. Kemudian dilihat lagi kalau ada rencana scholarship, visi misinya harus sesuai. Kalau memang banyak STEM, ya berarti harus tahu negara mana yang dia juga concernnya ke arah situ gitu. Untuk resume tetap diminta CV-nya tolong dilampirkan kalau pernah publish paper, apapun itu ditaruh di situ. Untuk IELTS dan PTE-nya kurang lebih konversinya 6,5 atau 60. Ada beberapa yang 62. Valid passport, personal statement tetap diminta kalau negaranya Eropa dan juga reference letter. But please take a note kalau ada yang berencana S3-nya ke Eropa, itu kita tidak bisa bantu, semua agent nggak bisa bantu dan itu harus apply sendiri ke uninya, kecuali yang UK dan Irlandia. Oke, nah ini mungkin kalau misalnya ada yang berencana untuk apply scholarship, yang mana dulu yang harus didahulukan, better lebih baik mencari dulu university-nya, country-nya, scholarship-nya, dan programnya. Karena setelah itu kalian akan tahu berapa sih nilai English requirement yang dibutuhkan, IELTS atau PTE itu berapa sih yang dibutuhkan. Jadi kalian sudah tahu targetnya berapa, harus dapat berapa, baru kalian bisa persiapan dan tes juga di IALF. Karena kita semua ada ini preparation dan test centernya juga. Jadi once sudah kalian achieve, baru kalian bisa set priority list untuk university-nya dan mau kemana programnya. Jadi karena LOE di sini atau unconditional offer takes time, bisa sampai 6 sampai 8 minggu dan itu tergantung intake-nya kapan. Jadi tolong dipertimbangkan sebelum apply semuanya dan juga data-datanya sebelum tes tadi seperti di reminder lagi paspornya make sure semuanya nama sama. Oke, Ca, do I still have a time? It's okay if
Yeah, I think you still got 3 minutes.
Oke, aku ini dulu. Jadi aku izin share dulu ini videonya. Ini adalah salah satu student IELTS Global yang LPDP. Dia berangkat ke Irlandia, sorry. Please let me know kalau misalnya nggak kedengeran ya suaranya. Kedengeran nggak sih? I don't think kayaknya nggak ini ya.
Boleh di press yang sebelah kanan tuh Kak. Ada
Wait.
yang yes, that one. Oh, it's already up.
Enggak, itu udah kok.
Okay.
Wait,
Coba di share sound mungkin.
kayaknya aku harus matiin ini dulu, wait. Stop share dulu. Think kayaknya memang Duh, oh, kayaknya nggak bisa, sorry.
Okay, should we just pass it?
I think we should pass it then. See,
Okay.
kayaknya kedengeran? Kayaknya enggak deh, it's okay. Oke, buat yang mau bertanya-tanya, ini ada nomor salah satu rekan kami, yaitu Aza. Jadi ini nomornya boleh difoto, boleh nanti aku juga taruh di chat box kalau misalnya belum sempat. Jadi kalau misalnya mau tanya-tanya lebih lanjut terkait apa aja yang harus disiapkan, apa saja yang dibutuhkan, itu bisa langsung kontak ke nomor ini. Nah, mungkin biasa orang suka lupa ya nama gitu. Mungkin aku lebih baik tampilin mukanya dari tim global. Jadi yang 3 teratas kalau yang dari Bali itu adalah tim konselor yang dari Bali. Kalau yang dari Jakarta ada pojok kiri kanan yang cewek kacamataan dan kalau yang di Gading Serpong ada aku fotonya sama partnerku sebelahnya gitu. Soalnya kalau aku sebut nama kalian pasti lupa yang mana. Nanti yang namanya ini mukanya yang ini. Nah, better inget mukanya aja. So I think that's all from me. Thank you and I'll pass on again to Echa.
Oke, thank you Kak Tobing. So, again, buat teman-teman yang ada mau studi lanjut ke luar negeri, you can contact Aza anytime you want. Ya, yang pasti di jam kerja kita. Okay, before we start with the presentation from our speakers, aku mau tahu nih rata-rata teman-teman yang join hari ini itu tujuannya untuk apa? Bandnya kalian itu yang rencananya mau diambil kurang lebih berapa sih skornya? Terus juga tujuannya dan apakah sudah pernah tes sebelumnya? So you may answer the polling guys on the screen. Oke, ini rata-rata mostly sudah pernah ambil English test sebelumnya ya. So, 9 out of 11 I guess udah pernah tes sebelumnya. 9 out of 12. Lalu juga rata-rata ini memang mau studi abroad. Good for you. And then targetnya mostly di sini 56 sampai 75. Yes, that is the minimum requirements for university. So I'll just wait couple minutes. Okay, good to know about you guys. Okay, I think that's all. So, before we start, I would like to introduce our speakers. So, Miss Mita is one of the ILF teacher with more than 12 years experience, and she has been teaching variety classes, start from general English, IELTS preparation, business English, and also a certified PTE academic trainer. So, Miss Mita, the time is yours.
Thank you, Acha. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to present the information about PTE in English. And later, feel free to drop any questions in the comment section. If it's related to the information that I'm sharing with you, then I'll happily address it right away. But if it's a bit technical, then one of my colleagues will help you later. Yeah. And we will also conduct a Q&A session towards the end. So let me share my PPT. All right, so basically in today's session, the idea is to help you getting to know PTE better. Some of you have taken the IELTS test, TOEFL test probably in the past, and PTE is totally different compared to the other English tests that you may have taken. Some of you have never taken the test before, so hopefully later after today's session, you'll get some insights on what PTE test is about and to see whether you are actually going to take this test, if it's the right test for you, because it might be a bit I wouldn't say weird, but it's actually totally different, yeah, with many English tests that are available these days. All right. And some of you are planning to take the study program abroad. Yes, PTE Academic is definitely one of the tests that you can take. Yeah. And it's part of the requirement these days. So later, when you identify the type of questions, maybe you can also decide, yeah, whether you should take PTE or other tests. For those of you who are still not sure, like, oh, what what's the target score, or why do I need the test for? Hopefully, today's session can also help you, yeah, in identifying that. So let's get started. As I've mentioned before, our objectives for today is to learn a bit more about PTE Academic itself, figuring out the test format and see some examples of the speaking, writing, reading, and listening question as part of the parts of the test. So as my colleagues have already mentioned, PTE is a computer-based English test. So it's pretty similar to other tests where it tests your level of speaking, writing, reading, and listening, but in academic setting. So PTE Academic is super academic in a way that although you're not taking PTE Academic for studying purpose, you still need to actually indulge in this academic vocabulary and topics. So you need to be careful. If you're not taking it for academic purposes, later you need to actually put some extra effort on the academic. It's a single 2-hour test taken in a test center. So you need to go to one of our test centers. We're just recently opened the new PT test center in Bali. So if you're in Bali, feel free to go to Bali. But if you are in Jakarta or in the greater area of Jakarta, you can visit us at Gading Serpong. And PTE academic test is scored by AI with some human experts' help to reduce the risk of bias. But most of the questions are actually scored by AI. And this is pretty much the first test that is scored mostly by AI. So who is it for? Again, it's for studying purposes, but some people have also used PTE Academic for applying work and holiday visa to Australia. Yeah. So it's for migration process. Yeah. Now, let's have a look at the format of PTE. So PTE test is divided into 3 parts. The first one, or the one in the beginning, is speaking and writing, which takes the longest. Okay, and then it will be followed by reading and then listening at the end. Yeah. So if some of you have taken the IELTS test, the order is totally different. Yeah. With IELTS, IELTS has listening first, followed by reading, and then writing and speaking at the end, or it can be in the beginning. But in PTE, speaking and writing is integrated. Yeah. And you do it first thing first. Okay. As you can see here, there is no break time. But can you actually, excuse yourself if, for example, you need to take a break for, toilet break? The answer is yes. However, it will be taken out of your test time. So you need to be careful, yeah, because if you don't want to lose that precious time in taking the test, please finish your business before or later. Yeah, hold it after you finish taking the test. All right. Now, let's look at each of parts of the test. Sorry, before that, let's have a look at the how PTE is marked. Yeah, there are 20 auto-scored question types, meaning by AI, and in PTE we have what we call overall score and communicative skill scores. So communicative skill scores is basically the reading, the listening, the speaking, and writing. However, PTE also has overall score, which is formulated by AI. So unfortunately, like we cannot know whether it's an equal proportion between the 4 communicative skills. It hasn't been released, yeah, but each question actually contributes to the overall score. Now, the mark for each skills in PTE falls somewhere between 10 to 90. So it's not possible that you get 0. Yeah, so the lowest score is 10. Although you don't really do it, you still get a 10. Yeah, around there. And the maximum is 90. Now, as I've mentioned before, it's mostly machine scored, but there is an exception in speaking, which is describe, image, and retell lecture, in which human experts are actually there to help scoring. Yeah. Now, some tasks are scored as either correct or incorrect, such as in multiple choice single answer, where you get 1 point for each correct answer and 0 points for each incorrect one. However, there is what we call negative marking in PT Academic, in which you will get -1 for each incorrect one. So you need to be careful. Yeah. Unlike other tests, where you can still just guess the answer, There's nothing to lose if you actually answer it wrongly. In PTE, you need to be careful, in particular in these three types of questions. For both reading and listening, there is what we call multiple choice, multiple answers. So you need to choose more than one answer, but they don't tell you how many multiple answers that you need to choose from. So if you're not sure with your answer, it's better not to guess. All right. And one more type of question in listening called the highlight incorrect words also has negative marking. So if you're not sure that you hear the incorrect words, you don't need to answer it. Okay. It's better that you have a full score, for example, 5, rather than have a deducted score later on. Okay. And in mostly speaking and writing, the scoring is called either correct, partially correct, or incorrect. Why? Because for speaking and writing, there are several categories that are assessed. For example, you might be assessed on your content, whether your response is relevant or not to the question. And then later they'll check, for example, in speaking, they always have a separate marking for oral fluency and also for pronunciation. So it will help build up the number of scores later. Yeah. Same with writing. Besides the content, whether you address the question correctly or not, they also sometimes have a separate assessment for vocabulary, for example, or for grammar. Yeah, there's also something about language. So that's why there's the term partially correct here. Okay. Now, in speaking and writing, you also need to be careful because some responses are scored for content or form first before further scoring. And what does it mean? It means that there's a possibility of getting 0 points, yeah, for that certain question. Okay. For example, in writing, you need to write one essay. However, in terms of content, you write it in a completely different topic. Okay, so for example, the question is about tourism, but then since you don't understand the question, you just write something about health. That's totally different topic. You'll get 0 for content, which means the rest of the other assessment criteria will also not be marked. So you'll get 0 for that specific task. We need to be really careful. Yeah. Another example is in an essay which is less than 120 words. So if you write less than 120, they automatically give you a 0. Yeah. Okay. How about speaking? Speaking, when you have memorized answer, or maybe the topic is again different. For example, it's a repeat sentence and you just don't remember what you need to say, you will automatically get 0 for that. Yeah, so we need to be careful. All right. Now let's have a look at the report form for PTE. So as you can see here, later you will receive it in a full page like this, and they'll tell you for each communicative scores like this one: listening, reading, speaking, writing, and there's gonna be overall score on the top right. Yeah, they'll tell you all of the information about yourself based on the ID, yeah, the passport that you use when you register. So this is probably the third time you're hearing this, but we will keep on reminding you to be careful when you submit the ID information. Yeah, and don't forget to use the latest passport. Yeah. So there's some information about the score report. Yeah, you can also find this information later. Yeah. Now, for those of you who have taken the other test, let's see how the relation between the scoring that you've ever had with PTE. So let's say, for example, you've taken the TOEFL IBT, and it kind of ranges. Yeah. The score kind of ranges. So between 40 to 120, for example, and then you get 80. Okay. And it means if you take the test, you'll probably get around 53. But if you've taken the test quite recently, yeah. But if you took the test like long time ago, of course, there's a possibility that your score has improved or has gotten worse. So we don't know, but it's around that. But so if you're confused, like, oh, okay, my new requirement is this, but I've taken the TOEFL before, is it possible that I get pretty similar result? Then you can use this concordance table. Okay. How about for IELTS? Okay, for IELTS, mostly if you are planning to take a master degree abroad, and it's around 6.5, and in PTE, normally they require you around 55 to 62 for overall score. However, some universities might actually put higher target score for the PTE. So you need to always double check. Yeah, but it's always good to have actually more than one options, right? Yeah. And if you have taken just other English tests, normally they give you CFR levels. Yeah, so it stands for the Common European Framework Results. So there you can see like whether your English level is in A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. If you have taken it, for example, at school and you know like you are a C1 level, then it means if you take the PT test, then you might get around 78 to 85, for example. So you can actually have already some insights on how to expect. Yeah. Okay. And then in details, normally if you apply for work and holiday visa applications to Australia, they normally ask for just 30 to 50. Yeah. But if you plan to continue your undergraduate studies, then it's around 51 to 60. And I saw from the survey earlier that most of you are aiming higher than 60, which means that you are planning to take your postgraduate or master degree. Yeah. So always double check with the target score, because later it will always affect the strategy that you're going to apply in getting the score that you want. Okay. Now, let's get into each part of the test. The first test is speaking and writing. And this is the longest section of the test. Yeah, you're doing the productive skills first. And as the name suggests, you will do some questions related to speaking, followed by a few questions related to writing. Okay, bear in mind that everything is going to be in an academic environment, so you need to also use the academic English more than the normal English. Yeah, in speaking, there is a 3-second rule that you must remember. This rule applies when you start giving your response. So what does it mean? 3-second rule. If you say nothing within 3 seconds, okay, the microphone automatically closes and you can no longer record your response. So you need to practice that so that you don't actually stop saying anything. Yeah, you need to say something to keep on going, to keep the response going. Yeah. And in speaking and writing, it's not only your speaking that and writing that is assessed, but you will also have some of the integrated skills such as reading and speaking. So for example, there is a text that you need to read first before you actually give a response. Or there's also some listening, like a discussion that you need to pay attention to before you give a spoken response. Then in that case, your not only your speaking, but also your listening will be affected. Yeah, that's why we call it integrated skills. Can only be found in speaking and writing. All right. So let's have a look at the question types under speaking and writing. There are 9 question types, although you can see 10 here. Number 1 is actually not scored. Yeah. So let's get down to it by one. The first type of question is personal introduction, which is not scored again. So it doesn't contribute to your score and it's actually only for familiarization purposes. So you're getting familiar with the machine, with the computer in front of you, you get warmed up, and this is something that you can prepare in advance before even going to the test center. Okay, you will always have 25 seconds to read the prompt and prepare your response, so probably prepare your mental, and then 30 seconds to record your response. Always 30 seconds. Yeah, so you can pretty much do it right after this webinar, preparing what you're gonna say in 30 seconds. And later, it can actually be sent to the university that you're applying for. So you might want to impress the university that you're applying for. Okay, you are only able to record your answer once. Yeah, there's no repetition here. Okay, the next or actually the first question type for speaking is read aloud. So I need to recall your memory on primary schools probably, yeah, when the teacher gives us some text to read aloud, and this is exactly what you need to do for these question types. Yeah, normally they give you quite a long sentence, yeah, but you only have 6 to 7 questions in read aloud. Preparation time equals to response time. So if they give you 40 seconds to prepare, it means you have 40 seconds to respond. Yeah. Okay. So is it easy? It should be easy. Yeah. In terms of speaking, because you pretty much need to just read what is in front of you. The challenge, of course, is in the oral fluency and pronunciation. Okay. But in general, for speaking, you do need to maintain, yeah, the same score for fluency and pronunciation. Okay. Up next, we have repeat sentence. So with repeat sentence, it can be a bit more challenging. I'd consider this like a memory test because you need to memorize what the speaker has said and say it exactly the same. Okay. Yeah. So as I mentioned, it is more of a memory test. But don't worry, you will be given an erasable noteboard during the test. So this noteboard can be used for taking notes. So if you feel like, oh, okay, I'm not really good at memorizing, then maybe you can actually write as you listen to the recording. Yeah. It depends on your skills. Okay. If your memory is quite good, then maybe you don't need to write anything. So you can focus on just typing as fast as you can of the words that you have heard. Okay. Up next, we have describing image. So describe image is actually similar to writing task 1 in IELTS question. Yeah, IELTS test. Yeah. Unfortunately, in PTE, it has become a speaking question. There are 5 to 6 images that you need to describe, and you have exactly the same amount of time to respond, which is 40 seconds. For each image, you will get 25 seconds to prepare. And most of the time is again just a mental preparation. Yeah. However, I'd say that this is actually easier compared to the IELTS because most of the time you just need to describe what you can see on the screen. Yeah. In IELTS, you do need to do some of interpretation, some summaries, but here they kind of want you just to describe. All right. Up next, we have retail lecture. So this can be challenging because you will hear to a lecture giving like quite an, it can be an interview, it can be a long lecture. And then later, you will need to actually sum it up. So it doesn't have to be the same order, but you're giving a summary. PT tests have several questions that require you to sum up the content, like from the listening or from the reading. So please do some practice beforehand regarding making summary. Yeah, if you're planning to take the test. Up next, we have answer short question. So this can be very simple, and sometimes it requires only like one word or a few words. They can even like ask you, oh, what color will you get if you combine red and blue, for example? Like, oh, so obvious, for example, purple. And then you just answer like that. Yeah, but of course, the topic will be academic word. Okay. Now, last year, PTE introduced 2 new question types into speaking. The first one is this one, summarize group discussion. Okay. And I'd say that this is pretty much the most challenging so far. Okay. Why? Because you need to actually listen to a discussion of 3 people. Yeah, 3 people. So be careful with the genders because sometimes they have the same gender of 2 people, like 2 male speakers and 1 female, and maybe you need to be able to differentiate between the 2 male speakers. Yeah. And then this one has the longest response because you will have to respond in 2 minutes. Yeah. So this is where your speaking ability will will help you, yeah, whether you have it good or not, because 2 minutes is quite long. Yeah, pretty much the longest. And you also need to stay on track with the content. You cannot really go off topic, or if you actually give like the wrong information because you misidentify the speaker, then it might actually affect the score. Okay, there are 2 to 3 questions here. So please prepare yourself. It's not only just going to be one question. Yeah. And the next type of question is respond to a situation. This one can be considered to be easier than before. Yeah. However, if you're not really used to having the setting of responding to a situation or responding in English, this can be quite a challenge. Yeah. So normally with this type of question, someone will actually give you the situation, what's going on, but you can also read the situation on the screen. Yeah, as you can see here as an example, you have an essay due to tomorrow, but you have been feeling sick for the past 2 weeks. You went to the clinic and got a doctor's note. You feel better, but have to ask your professor for an extension over the weekend. You go to your professor's office. What do you say to him? So you will actually listen to the exact wording as the instruction in front of you. Yeah. So the response needs to be as natural as possible. So you need to pretend that, for example, in this exam question, the professor is in front of you, and what are you going to say to him? So, for example, something like, "Oh, hi, professor. I'm sorry to interrupt your time, blah blah," and then you give the response. Yeah, stating whatever you need to do based on the situation. Yeah, you only need to do 2 to 3 questions for this one, and you have 40 seconds to respond. And that's about it for speaking. After you finish with all of the speaking questions, then you will move on to writing. Okay. The first type of writing is to summarize written text. So you will see a reading text in front of you, and then you will need to summarize. Okay, make a summary of the text. What is the text about? And you will have 2 questions or 2 texts to sum up. Okay, in the past, there were only one here, but more in the essay. But now it's the other way around. You have more text to sum up, but later you will have only one essay to write. Yeah. Same with the essay. You can cut, copy, and paste. Yeah. So you can, for example, you want to just copy the words from the text. Feel free to do that. Yeah. But remember that vocabulary is one of the criteria assessment. So you might want to paraphrase. Yeah. And there is a word limit which will affect the form. Yeah. So you don't have to write too long. Okay, be careful with summarized written text. You need to write your summary in one sentence only. So you cannot write more than one sentence. Yeah, it will affect the form scoring. Okay, and just read the instructions because later you also have a summarized spoken text in your listening. Yeah. Now, with essay, you only need to write one single essay. Yeah, and it needs to be within 200 and 300 words. So unlike in IELTS where you have minimum words but you don't have any maximum, uh, PTE essay does have the range. So if you write less or if you write more than 300, then you'll get the same amount of score, yeah, which is 1. So we don't want that. You want the full score here. Yeah. And same as before, you can cut, copy, and paste. Okay. You will see the word limit here to remind you that, oh, okay, you're almost reaching the word limit. So maybe you can make your sentences more concise and so on. All right. Okay. Any questions so far with speaking and writing part questions? Before we move on to reading and listening. Okay, Nadia is asking a question. Is it possible to learn a single template that can be used for the retail lecture, summarized group discussion, essay part? What do you mean by single template? For each or for all of the 3 that you mentioned here? If you're asking for each, then it is possible. Yeah, of course, when we're talking about a structure, there is, of course, a structure that you can follow. Yeah, but for all 3, no, they're slightly different. Yeah, for example, with the retail lecture, you're only listening to one person talking, right? So that you would always just refer to this one person. But for example, with summarized group discussion, not only that you need to sum up what the 3 people have to say, but you need to also sum up what each person has said. So we need to be careful, yeah? And how about essay? Can you use the template of general academic writing like the ones in IELTS where you have introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion? The answer is yes. But again, for the template is different for each of these 3 question types. Yeah. Hope it answers your questions, Nadia. All right. So let's move on to reading. If you have no more questions under speaking and writing. Okay, so reading is the second part and it lasts around 29 to 30 minutes. Why is there always a range? Because you are the one who has the power to click on the next question. Yeah, so you have that power, but of course there's a time limit before you click on the next. But you know, if you can do it fast, then you can do it fast. You can finish fast. You can go home even first before the rest. Yeah, you don't need to wait. All right, now there are 5 different question types in reading, and there is one integrated skills, only one under fill in the blanks. And don't forget that there is a negative marking here. Yeah. And the text varies between 70 to 300 words. So some text can be, quite short, but some other text can be quite long. And for each question, you'll have different text, not for different question types, yeah, for different question. So keep in mind for one type of question, you might actually have several questions. And for each question, you have different text. That's why PTE can be a bit exhausting in terms of reading. So like when you're done with one question, unfortunately, you need to brace yourself to read a new different topics. Yeah. All right, so these are the 5, and let's get down to it. The first one is what we call fill in the blanks, and the first one also assess your writing skills, although you don't need to type the answer. Yeah, so you might thought like earlier like, do I need to actually type so that my spelling is assessed? Actually not. In this fill in the blanks, you just need to click, yeah, here. You need to click on the arrow and then you'll have a list of options where you can choose the answer from. Yeah. And as I said before, it says 5 to 6 question means that you will have 5 to 6 texts. So and in each text you will have several uh blanks, yeah, that you need to choose the answer from. Okay. Up next is multiple choice, multiple answer. So this is the one with the negative marking. Yeah. So one of the strategies here is to not guess the answer. Okay. If you're not sure, let's say the answer can be 2, can be 3, but you are only sure with one answer, then just choose one. Yeah, it's better to get 1 point rather than getting 0 by answering 3 questions. Yeah, so maybe even minus. Yeah, we don't want that. Okay, so be careful. Yeah, you might have 2 to 3 questions here. Yeah, meaning 2 to 3 text. Up next, we have reorder paragraphs. This is probably quite similar to what we used to have back in high schools. Yeah, for our own Indonesian language, we need to reorder paragraphs. Yeah, as you can see here, the one on the left is jumbled. Okay, and then you need to put them in the right order on the right side. Okay. Now, another fill in the blanks in reading. This one is only for your reading scores. In this type of fill in the blanks, you actually have the option at the bottom and you just need to choose one. So one answer can only be used once. Yeah, once you've already used one of them, then you need to be careful. If you think it's the answer for another one, then you need to go back to the previous one and so on. Yeah. Last but not least, we have just the normal multiple choice single answer. Yeah, this probably will be having the least number of words. Yeah, and you only need to choose one answer. The strategy for multiple choice, single answer, and multiple answer are pretty much the same. You need to use elimination process, and not only that your reading skills that is tested, but your vocabulary skills will also be tested here. So keep that in mind. Yeah. Any questions about reading before we continue with listening? Let me know in the chat box if you have any questions about reading. All good? Let's continue first then. So last but not least, we have listening. So listening can be longer, yeah, than the reading, 30 to 43 minutes, because there are more question types here in listening. Now, most of the time, you will just have an audio, like an audio recording, but sometimes you also have video clips. Yeah. It begins automatically when you click next. So before you actually want to do the next question, brace yourself. Once you click next, the audio or the video plays automatically. So be careful, yeah? And it will only play it once. You cannot pause the recording. Okay? Again, as similar to before when we had speaking, you are given the erasable noteboard so you can take notes. Yeah. And you pretty much need to learn how to take notes in listening because you cannot always rely on your memory. Okay. And don't forget with listening type of questions, 2 type of questions have negative marking. Okay. Now, let's have a look at what you need to do under listening questions. Okay. First one is what we call summarize spoken text. Okay. So here, partial credit is applied because there's content that you need to answer on track. Yeah. Be careful. It can affect the other scores. Okay. So if it's irrelevant, you will get 0 right away. There's only one that you need to do. This looks similar with the summarized written text, yes? Because you need to type your answer. However, unlike summarized written text, where you need to just write in one sentence, for spoken text, you can actually write in more than one sentence. Okay? And there's a range here of the words that you need to write. 50 to 70 words. So you need to make sure that you don't write less than 50 or more than 70. What I normally tell my student is that if you practice with summary spoken text and written text, if you don't want to get confused, then maybe you can actually just write for both one single sentence and less than 70 words. So it's actually applicable for both, just in case you forget. However, you can still read the instructions. Yeah, the instruction tells you whether you can write in more than one sentence or not. In, like, for example, you can see the instructions here. They don't tell you that you need to only write it in one sentence. So it means you can write it in more than one sentence. Okay. Up next is multiple choice, multiple answers. Super similar to reading, but you don't have the text in front of you. Yeah. So you need to be careful. If you're not sure, don't guess the answer. Up next, we have fill in the blanks. Now, in fill in the blanks for listening is where you need to type the missing word. Yeah, but you don't need to worry because your answer doesn't contribute to writing. Yeah, so it's okay. It's just for the listening score later. Up next, we have highlight, correct summary. So as I told you, there are a lot of summarizing in PTE, and this is also one of them. You will hear recording, and then you need to actually click the best summary. So with listening question, unfortunately, unlike in IELTS, for example, where you have some time to look at the options, you don't really have that. That's why taking notes, yeah, or note taking skills is super important for you to practice with. Yeah. If you're not used to taking notes, get used to it before taking the real test because you will need to take notes, a lot of it. Yeah. Up next is multiple choice, single answer. Same as reading. You just need to choose one answer for this one. Up next, we have select missing words. So basically, with this one, you're looking for the end of a sentence to complete the recording. So the recording will have incomplete sentences, and you just need to find the correct words that still follows the topic. What is it about? Uh, Grammar must be, of course, considered. Sometimes you can see like, oh, before, after, I have a bit like a close markers, but the rest is preposition. So which one do you think you will need, or you can eliminate even in the beginning? Yeah. Up next, we have highlight incorrect words. This can be tricky because it has the minus system. Yeah, but you can pretty much practice using lyrics, yeah, for example from songs, or when you watch kind of like watch a video, turn the subtitle on, so you can identify whenever they say something that is wrong. Then in the real test, you just need to click on the word that you think is not mentioned by the speaker. But if you're not sure, don't click it. Yeah, because you can get negative marking. Last but not least, we have write from dictation. Yeah, I believe in the past, like when we were in primary school as well, yeah, we used to have teachers telling us to write what they dictate. That's pretty much the same. Yeah, almost the same with repeat sentences. Yeah, but in this one, you're going to write them down. With repeat sentence, you need to say it. Yeah, but this one is text. Yeah, and you will have around 3 to 4 questions for this dictation. All right. I think that's about it for the question types and the parts. Any questions regarding PTE question types? In particular listening or in overall?
Buat teman-teman yang mau bertanya langsung dengan our trainer, boleh bertanya. Kalau mau tanya di chat boleh, atau kalian mau on cam sambil on mic juga untuk tanya langsung, you can just ask directly gitu. Kalaupun if you're not, comfortable enough untuk bertanya dengan bahasa Inggris, kalian juga boleh bertanya dengan bahasa Indonesia. Feel free to use any language.
Yep. Yeah. Feel free to ask in any languages. Yeah. No worries. But I'll still answer it in English, unfortunately. Well, it's a good practice for you, right? Mhm. Okay. Okay, so any questions? If we switch from IELTS to PTE, how many days approximately to adapt and feel ready? Ooh, that's a good question. Uh, how many days? I wouldn't really use the term days. It again, it depends. If it's just about the familiarity, if your English is already good, uh, then I don't think you would have that much of a bigger problem. But you just need to actually practice with, with the different question types, because as you may have noticed, there are more questions, yeah, in PTE that is pretty individuals compared to IELTS. Yeah, in IELTS you have passage 1, passage 2, passage 3. All the questions are related to that passage, for example. But in PTE you have different question type, you have different texts. Same with listening. When you have different question types, there are several audio. So you need to train yourself for varieties in PTE. Yeah, unlike in IELTS where it's more like, oh, okay, part 1 we have the same topic. Yeah, in listening, part 2 we have the same topic. Part 3 we have the same topic. So for example, our course for PTE Express is 2 weeks. And if someone asks me, uh, is it really enough to move on from IELTS to PTE, for example, in 2 weeks? I would say not yet. You might actually need more time than that. But then again, if you are actually a fast learner, for example, and then you study really diligently and you really allocate every single day to practice with PTE question types, is it still possible? Because maybe you're running out of time before your deadlines. Yeah, there is a bit of possibility there, but it really depends. Yeah. Okay. So please identify first which test that is more suitable for you. Yeah, before taking the test. Mhm. The result. So it's pretty similar actually between IELTS and PTE. It's typically 2 days. Yeah, 2 to 5 days. Yeah, for PTE. If there's no technical errors, if everything goes well, normally you can receive the result within 2 days. Okay, PTE test is the computer based. Yes. Do we bring our own laptop to take a test? No, no, no. You don't even use a laptop. You're going to use a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. So, for those of you who are so used to using laptop, I'd advise you to actually practice using a keyboard and a mouse. It feels totally different, you know? Yeah. And with listening, you will be provided with the headphones, yeah, at the center. So you don't need to bring your own as well. Any PTE test near Sumatra? I'm not really aware of that. So, but my colleague might be able to help you with this question
Yeah,
later, yeah?
so the PTE test center in Indonesia now only available at ILF Gading Serpong, and the other one in Jakarta, Surabaya, and ILF Bali, and the last one in Pontianak.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm aware that there is in Pontianak. There is one in Pontianak. So if it's Pekanbaru, you might want to consider coming to Gading Serpong, which is the closest. So you need to double check with the flight ticket which one is going to be the cheapest option. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's have a look at some more common problem in this test. As my colleague has mentioned before, there are a lot of problems actually related to the accuracy of the personal details. So you need to be careful when you enter your name, especially when you have more than 2 names. Yeah, most Indonesians have 3, even more than. So you need to know where you put you put the given name and the surname, yeah, or the family name. So normally family name or surname only contains one word and the rest must be put in the given name. Yeah. For example, my name has 3 words: Ratna, Mita, Damayanti. So the one that I put in the surname is only Damayanti. Yeah. I know that some culture has their family name in the beginning, but we're using the passport, so you need to be careful. It needs to be the same order later in with your passport. Passport, sorry. Yeah. And if
And
you only have one, then you need to put a full stop in the surname. Yeah, sorry.
additional to that, Miss, so
Mhm.
there are some people who actually has like 4 until 5 names, but on their
Yes.
passport it just appear like 3 or 4 names, and
Mm.
it didn't conclude the last name. It usually conclude in the second page of the passport. So
Yep.
you just need to input your name on the first page of the passport.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So be careful, yeah, when you have such a long name, especially if we have more than 3. Yeah. Okay. If you're not sure, please reach us out. Yeah, you can always send us a message, yeah, through our WhatsApp, and just confirm. Yeah, if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to assist you. Yeah. And don't forget, we need to only use Roman characters. Yeah. Some of you might actually have an apostrophe in your name. So we need to be careful. Yeah. Okay, Feli is asking a question. If I join a PTE preparation class, will the teacher guide us with strategies, templates, and tips so we can reach our target score, or the course will be delivered by AI? Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not AI. Yes, the PTE preparation class will have a teacher. Yeah, and I'm one of the trainers. And we don't use AI. I mean, of course, we can use AI to help us. However, the class itself is still led by human teachers. Yeah. So depending when you're talking about PT preparation class, so when we're talking about the group class, the PT Express, we don't actually cover everything because there are 20 question types, but we cover the most common and most important question types. And yes, we do tell you like where you need to put the strategies, like which score that you need to pay attention to. For example, for speaking and writing, of course, there's a template. Yeah, that we suggest people to actually follow, so it is your way in answering the questions. Yeah, but keep in mind, if it's a group class, then you will be learning with other people, and everyone's pace might be different. So if you are in a rush, and if you feel like you have a certain concern, for example, you just want to improve your speaking and writing without talking about reading and listening, you probably want to consider taking our private or premium course. Yeah. Okay. Uh, as everything else. Okay. I think, another common problem is during the speaking test. Keep in mind that when you take the test, there are other test takers in the room. Yeah. And they will also start with speaking. So everyone will pretty much speak at the same time. So we recommend you to keep your headset on during the entire test so that you don't get distracted, and you just need to speak at a conversational level. You don't need to shout. Okay. The microphone will only record your own voice. Yeah. Although someone is talking very loudly next to you, normally it's not recorded by your microphone. But please keep it civil. We don't need to shout, yeah, in the test room. So we just need to, you know, a normal voice, no need to be loud, but don't be too soft either. Yeah. Okay. And on the test day, it is advised that you arrive at least 30 minutes. Yeah. And you will have to sign in at the test center reception. If you are late, then you might not be allowed. Yeah. You will not be allowed to take the test, and you will lose your test fee. There's no refund. Okay. There's a test taker agreement that you will need to read and sign again. Yeah. The identification or the ID or the passport will be checked. You will be a scan for your palm vein, and you will also have to sign. Okay, it's an electronic signature. Okay. but it needs to look the same with the one on your passport or so on your ID. Yeah. Later, there are some rules that you need to follow based on the test center, including not taking a lot of things to the room. Yeah. A locker will be provided for you to store your items. Okay. And in the test room, you cannot bring your phone, electronic devices, watches, jewelry, wallet, hats, coats, books, or even food and drinks, smoking, or even chatting. Yeah. And all of this information is available in these two PDF files that are released by Pearson itself. The one on the left is the PTE Test Taker Handbook. Yeah, so the information that I've just given you regarding what you can do, what you can't do in the test is available on the QR code on the left-hand side. However, if you wish to review how the scoring system works in PTE, you can scan the QR code on the right one. Yeah, on the right-hand side, the PTE Test Taker Score Guide. Okay. Let me know if you still need this. And the test itself for Gading Serpong Center is available in 4 days. Yeah, I'll show you in a moment on the schedule. So every Wednesday and Saturday, we have 2 sessions, yeah, morning and afternoon. But on Thursday and Friday, we only have 1 session from 1 to sorry, that's supposed to be 3:30. Yeah. Okay, I'll show you this one again. So I think that's about it from me. If you have any questions,
I think we need
we
to
can
answer
continue.
one more
Hmm?
question,
Oh,
Miss.
okay, sorry.
There's one more
Oh,
question.
oh yeah, sorry.
How long do we need the preparation time to get PT score 58?
58 if the TOEFL ITP score. Oh, okay. Now, you need to be careful because the concordance table earlier is for TOEFL IBT. And TOEFL ITP is different with TOEFL IBT. Um, TOEFL ITP. Let me check first because ITP is slightly different. Yeah, ITP doesn't have speaking, doesn't have writing, right? It's mostly just reading, listening, and grammar, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So with TOEFL IPT, let's see.
Okay, I think while we're waiting for that, untuk
Mm-hmm.
Zoom user, so the IELTS preparation will be held offline in Gading Serpong or online. So again, as Miss Mita mentioned before and my colleagues mentioned before, we have two options. One is the group class, which called as PT Express, that will be held online from Tuesday till Friday, either starting at 4 or 6 p.m. Each session will conduct each session has an hour and a half meeting. And if you're hoping to have the offline session at ILF Getting Serpong, you can do the preparation premium. So it's a private class one-on-one with the trainer. And the availability of the class starting from Tuesday till Friday, the time we can rearrange everything for you based on your availability and the teacher's availability. Thank you.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at the concordance table, it's actually around the same. Yeah, between TOEFL ITP 500 and the PTE. However, this is something that we need to double check by taking the scored practice test. Because PTE test is completely different. Sometimes it's more of the familiarization with the test itself that stops you from getting the score that you need. Yeah. And for example, like the student that gave the testimonial before, if we only took his placement test into account, he could actually get the score. But then when he did the scored practice test, it's still below his target score. Why? Because again, when we're talking about PTE, the test is quite different and it's scored by AI. Sometimes maybe it's the technicality of the test that you're not familiar with, like, oh, your response is not recorded, something like that, so that you might actually score very low in your speaking. Yeah. But if it's around the same, then uh when you ask, when the question is about like how long, again, it depends on how much time that you allocate for practicing. Are you going to commit like every single day, or how's the commitment will be actually divided into? Yeah, so it will determine how long the preparation time will take. Yeah. Do you have online premium class as well? Because I live quite far. Yeah, online is also possible. Well, in general, the test itself is online. So if you want to do it online, that's definitely possible. We've done that before. PT Express in Bali. Unfortunately, for PT Express, it's still online. Yeah, it's still an online class. So although you are in Bali, you still need to do it online. Mock-up test. Yes, definitely, Ria. So that's what we mentioned about the score practice tests. So if you enroll to one of the preparation classes, then you will be given access to do a scored practice test that is provided by Pearson. So that's the closest to the real PTE test that you can get. Yeah, because it's actually from Pearson itself. Then you can see like how far you are from the target score, or how close you are from the target score, and how realistic it is to get the score that you want. Okay, any other questions?
I think we need to close this meeting because it's 5 minutes to
Mm-hmm.
our end time.
Yep, no worries.
Mm-hmm. So just to make sure, any last questions, guys? All right, seems everyone's already good with their questions. Okay, once again, thank you so much, Miss Mita, for your time and explaining the PTE to us. And then how long to do you want to answer the last question, Miss? From
Sorry,
Robert?
how long to again, it depends. It really depends, but the preparation course itself, for our PTE Express preparation course lasts for 2 weeks. But it depends later whether you actually do the extra work outside the class, whether you practice on your own or not, and you need to see whether you are ready or not. So it's best to actually do the preparation in quite a amount of time before taking the test. So please don't do it in a hurry. We never cannot guarantee that you're gonna get the score that you want if you only have like, let's say, a week or even less than a week. Yeah, it's always best to prepare ourselves in quite amount of time, and our materials later can also be accessed to up to 3 months actually after you finish the course, so you can redo some of the exercise again and to review all of the materials. So yeah, it all depends on our hard work, eh? Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining me.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining this webinar. We really hope that this webinar can help you to get some insights for you who wants to take the PTE test, or maybe you want to prepare your test first with us. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and good evening.